In the heart of a metropolis that throbbed with relentless energy, a city of a million stories unfolding under a canopy of electric stars, there existed a profound and stark contrast. On the surface, it was a testament to human ambition, a dazzling spectacle of light, sound, and motion. The air hummed with the symphony of urban life, the distant wail of a siren, the bass-heavy thrum of music from a passing car, the murmur of 1,000 conversations blending into a single, indistinct roar. This was the city everyone saw, the one celebrated in postcards and films. But beneath this glittering facade, in the labyrinthine network of forgotten alleyways, a different reality festered. Here, the vibrant city lights failed to penetrate, casting long, distorted shadows that danced like specters. The sounds of life were muffled, replaced by the lonely drip of a leaky pipe into a stagnant puddle and the rustle of unseen things in the darkness. These were the city's hidden veins, choked with neglect and filled with the stories that were never told. And in one such artery of forgotten space, a tiny life was fading. His name was Miko. He was a small capuchin monkey, and he sat chained in the suffocating gloom. The cold iron cuff, a permanent fixture on his delicate wrist, had long ago rubbed the skin raw. The heavy chain, bolted to a rusted pole, granted him only a few feet of movement, a cruel parody of freedom in a world that had already taken everything else. He didn't shiver from the cold or flinch at the scuttling sounds around him. He simply sat, a small, motionless figure of despair, having learned that stillness was his only refuge from a world that had brought him nothing but pain. His spirit, once bright and curious, was now a flickering ember, nearly extinguished by cruelty and neglect. There was a time when his world was the noisy, chaotic street, but not as a creature of the wild. He was a performer, a prop forced to dance and tumble for the fleeting amusement of strangers. Each clink of a coin in a tin cup was a temporary reprieve from the harsh discipline that followed any hesitation. He learned to suppress his natural instincts, to ignore his fear, to perform on command. But his small body could only endure so much. When his energy waned, when his movements became slow and clumsy, when he could no longer earn his keep, his value was extinguished. He was beaten one last time, not with a stick, but with the ultimate act of indifference. He was abandoned. Now, days bled into nights, and the city's relentless pulse was a distant, meaningless hum. He had become a part of the alley's decay, another piece of forgotten refuse. His world had shrunk to the length of his chain, his existence defined by the gnawing ache of hunger and the profound weight of loneliness. He was a forgotten soul, invisible in the heart of the chaos, waiting for an end he was too broken to seek. But even in the deepest darkness, the universe sometimes conspires to light a candle. A different story was about to begin, carried on the gentle footsteps of a child who had a habit of looking where others did not. The city hummed with the familiar rhythm of late afternoon. For a young girl named Asha, this was the sound of home, the daily melody that accompanied her walk from school. The streets, usually a river of hurried footsteps and distant sirens, felt different today. A certain weight hung in the air, a stillness that seemed to gather in the long shadows cast by the setting sun. Asha clutched the straps of her backpack, her thoughts drifting from homework to the simple comfort of her family waiting for her. She took her usual shortcut, a narrow alleyway that sliced between two tall, indifferent buildings. It was a path she knew by heart, a quiet corridor that offered a brief escape from the city's relentless energy. But today, the silence wasn't empty. It was punctuated by something else. One afternoon, as the sky bled into shades of orange and purple, Asha walked home. In a quiet alley, a place usually filled with nothing but echoes, she heard a faint trembling sound. It was a soft, rhythmic whimper, almost too quiet to be real, like the ghost of a cry. It wasn't the familiar meow of a stray cat or the chirp of a lost bird. This was a sound of pure, unadulterated sorrow, and it stopped her in her tracks. Her heart, which had been light with thoughts of home, suddenly felt heavy. Curiosity warred with a primal sense of caution. Every instinct told her to keep walking, to hurry back to the safety of the main road. But the sound, so fragile and so full of pain, pulled at her. It was a question she couldn't leave unanswered. Taking a deep, steadying breath, she stepped out of the fading sunlight and into the cool, deep shadows of the alley. And there he was, huddled in the darkest corner, trying to make himself small against the cold, unforgiving concrete, was a tiny monkey. He was a portrait of neglect, a creature stripped of its wild spirit. His fur was matted and dull, clinging to a frame so thin that every rib was a stark, painful line. A heavy, rusted chain was cruelly fastened around his neck, tethering him to the wall like a forgotten piece of trash. But it was his eyes that shattered Asha's heart. They were large, dark pools of despair, vacant and dull, reflecting a world that had shown him nothing but cruelty. He sat utterly motionless, not with the patience of a waiting animal, but with the stillness of one who has surrendered all hope. He was Miko, though Asha didn't know his name yet. At that moment, he was just a life fading away in the shadows.
"Oh, you poor thing."
The words were a whisper, carried on a breath of pure empathy. Tears welled in Asha's eyes, blurring the heartbreaking sight before her. A wave of sadness, so profound it felt like a physical ache, washed over her. But beneath the sadness, a spark of resolve ignited. She couldn't just walk away. She couldn't leave him here. Rummaging through her school bag, past textbooks and crayons, her fingers found the banana she had saved for her afternoon snack. It wasn't much, but it was all she had to give. Her movements were slow, deliberate, so as not to startle the terrified creature. From her bag, she offered a banana slice, holding it out on her open palm. For a long moment, Miko didn't move. His dull eyes flickered towards the offering, a spark of awareness in their depths. Fear and hunger waged a silent war within him. He flinched as if expecting a blow, his body tensing. But Asha remained perfectly still, her expression soft, her presence radiating nothing but kindness. Then, slowly, so slowly, his trembling hand stretched forward. His fingers, delicate and cold, brushed against hers as he took the small piece of fruit. He didn't devour it. He ate with a quiet, desperate urgency, his gaze never leaving hers, as if he couldn't believe this small act of compassion was real. In that shared silence, a fragile connection was forged, a silent promise from a little girl to a little monkey that he was no longer alone. That night, sleep offered Asha no escape. The image of the monkey was seared into her mind. The rusted chain, the visible ribs, the profound emptiness in his eyes. She tossed and turned, the comfort of her warm bed feeling like a betrayal. Every time she closed her eyes, she was back in that cold, dark alley, face to face with his suffering. The world suddenly seemed a much crueler place than she had ever imagined. How could someone do that? How could they leave a living, feeling being to waste away in darkness? The questions echoed in the quiet of her room, unanswered and unbearable. The sadness she felt earlier had now crystallized into something stronger, a fierce, unshakable determination. She knew she couldn't fix the world's cruelty in one night, but she could change the world for one small monkey. By the time the first light of dawn crept through her window, she had made a decision. She would not let him be forgotten. She would be his voice. She would get him help. Asha's father called a rescue group. They arrived quickly, moving slowly to cut the rusty chain that held Miko captive.
As the van door closed, Asha whispered a prayer. "Please save him."
At the rescue center, Miko was silent. For weeks he sat facing the wall, refusing to eat, refusing to live. But one volunteer, Priya, refused to give up, reading to him for hours. Then he looked at her. Trust was growing.
"It's okay, Miko. You're safe now. Go on."
Then slowly he climbed, higher and higher, reclaiming his world. He reached a branch, looked out at a life he'd almost forgotten, and smiled. The passing of time at the sanctuary is measured not in days or weeks, but in milestones of healing. For Miko, the first few months were a quiet unfolding, a gentle return to a life he had almost forgotten. The heavy silence that had clung to him like a shroud began to lift, replaced by the tentative chirps and calls of a monkey rediscovering his voice. His physical transformation was remarkable. The dull, patchy fur gave way to a coat of rich, healthy brown, and the haunted look in his eyes was slowly replaced by a bright, curious spark. He was no longer the frail, withdrawn creature who first arrived, but a picture of burgeoning health and vitality. But the most profound change was in his spirit. The sanctuary keepers noted his incredible capacity for empathy. He seemed to sense which of the other rescues needed a gentle touch or a quiet companion. He would often sit with the newest arrivals, the ones still bearing the invisible scars of their past, offering a silent solidarity that was more comforting than any chatter. His own playful nature, once buried under layers of trauma, re-emerged with delightful exuberance. The monkey who once sat silent and still now orchestrated games of chase, his laughter echoing through the trees. He became a beloved rogue, known for his clever antics, stealing a juicy mango when a keeper wasn't looking, or splashing gleefully in the cool water of the pond, inviting others to join. He was a beacon of joy, a living testament to the resilience of the spirit. One of his primary caregivers shared, "In the beginning, every interaction was a question. We didn't know if he would ever trust again. But Miko taught us about patience. One day, he reached out and just held my finger. No fear, just connection. Now, he's the heart of his troop. He shows the others how to play, how to trust. He doesn't just live here, he helps this place heal." This transformation is what sanctuaries strive for, not just to save a life, but to restore a soul, allowing these intelligent, social animals to live with the dignity and freedom they deserve. Then, on a warm, sun-drenched afternoon, a familiar figure appeared at the sanctuary gates. It was Asha. She had never forgotten the little monkey by the roadside, and her family had arranged this visit, hoping to give her a sense of closure and peace. She walked quietly alongside a guide, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and apprehension. What if he didn't recognize her? What if her presence brought back painful memories? She scanned the sprawling enclosure, a vibrant world of green leaves and chattering monkeys. And then she saw him. Across the way, a confident, energetic monkey paused his play, his head tilting as if hearing a distant, familiar melody. It was Miko. He looked so different, stronger, happier, so full of life. For a moment, Asha simply stared, tears welling in her eyes. Before she could even call his name, Miko rushed towards the fence that separated them, his movements urgent and full of purpose. He let out a cascade of excited, high-pitched chatters, a sound so different from the pained silence she remembered. It was a greeting, an exclamation, a story of survival all rolled into one.
You remember me, don't you? You really remember.
Her voice was a whisper, carried on the breeze. In response, Miko reached out a small, delicate hand through the wire mesh, placing it gently on her own. It wasn't a plea for help or a gesture of fear. It was a connection, pure and simple. A touch that bridged two worlds. In that profound moment, the silence that once held so much pain was transformed, filled now with the unspoken language of gratitude, recognition, and a love that had endured. It was a testament that an act of kindness, no matter how small, can ripple through time, creating a bond that even separation cannot break. Today, Miko lives in the sanctuary forest, helping others heal the same way he was helped. Once he had forgotten how to smile. Now he knows one act of kindness can change a life forever. Your small kindness might be the reason they smile again.